Consider this my birthday present to you. The message arrived at 8:23 a.m., just as my wife Jennifer was lighting the candles on the chocolate cake she had baked especially for me. The text from Madison Pierce, the 28-year-old daughter of the company's owner, glowed on my cell phone screen like a professional death sentence. Your position at Sterling Tech Solutions has been eliminated due to organizational restructuring. Effective immediately. HR will be in touch. Jennifer stopped in the middle of the birthday song, noticing my expression. Instead of shock or despair, a small knowing smile formed at the corner of my mouth. I put my phone in my pocket and blew out the candles as if nothing had happened. "Did you make a wish?" she asked, curious about my strange calmness. "I did," I replied, cutting a generous slice of cake. "And I'm sure it will come true." My name is Aaron Mitchell, and at 35, I just received the most calculatedly cruel dismissal of my career. But while Madison was probably celebrating her small victory, imagining me devastated on my special day, I was calmly eating breakfast. The signs had been there for weeks. The meetings I was excluded from without explanation. The furtive glances when I passed through the hallways. The way Madison smiled when she saw me, that smile that didn't reach her eyes, filled with barely concealed satisfaction. For 6 years, I was the technological heart of Sterling Tech Solutions. I built a proprietary project management system from scratch that revolutionized our operational efficiency. Every line of code, every security protocol, every integration, it all came from my mind and my hands. Robert Sterling, the founder, called me the in-house genius. He gave me carte blanche to modernize the company's entire technology infrastructure. The results were spectacular. We reduced operating costs by 40% and increased productivity by 60%. Then Madison graduated with a degree in business, and Dad decided she needed real-world experience. At 28, Madison Pierce Sterling had the right last name and the wrong attitude. 3 months ago, Robert announced that she would be taking over as Director of Technology Operations, my direct supervisor. The change was immediate and brutal. Where Robert valued my expertise, Madison treated me like a troublesome subordinate. Where he sought my opinions on strategic decisions, she excluded me entirely from planning meetings. Even worse, Madison began taking credit for innovations I had implemented over the years. In presentations to investors, she would talk about our proprietary system, as if she had been involved in its creation. When I tried to politely confront her about it, she said with that condescending smile, "Aaron, you need to understand that we're part of a team now. There are no individual heroes here." What Madison didn't know, and Robert seemed to have forgotten in his excitement over seeing his daughter taking initiative, was that my system wasn't just complex. It was intentionally impenetrable. Over 6 years of building and refining each module, I had created an architecture that only I fully understood. Not out of malice, but out of necessity. Every company has its trade secrets, its unique processes, its specific vulnerabilities. My system reflected that complexity organically. There were passwords within passwords, backup protocols that only activated under specific conditions, and technical documentation written in a language that made perfect sense to me but would be ancient Greek to any other programmer. Jennifer poured more coffee as I discreetly checked for initial reactions. My phone already showed 5 missed calls from the office. "Work?" she asked, noticing my divided attention. "Something like that," I replied, silencing my phone. "Nothing that can't wait." The truth was that Madison had just made the most spectacular mistake of her young career. By firing me without warning, without transition, without even understanding what I actually did at the company, she had essentially sabotaged her own operation. Sterling Tech had million-dollar contracts with clients who depended on automatic reports generated by my system. It had integrations with suppliers who processed orders through my algorithms. It had data backups and security protocols that I had customized over the years. And now, no one else in the company knew how to keep everything running. I finished my breakfast slowly, savoring each sip as my phone vibrated incessantly in my pocket. 12 missed calls in 20 minutes. "I'm going to take a shower," I announced, kissing Jennifer on the forehead. "And then I think we're going to have a very interesting day." If you're enjoying this story of how getting fired on my birthday turned into the sweetest revenge of my career, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because what Madison did to me on Monday morning was just the first move in a game she didn't know she was playing. And when it was over, She would find out exactly why firing the architect of a system on his birthday might be the most expensive gift anyone ever gave. 15 missed calls in 40 minutes. As Jennifer prepared my special birthday lunch, I watched my phone vibrate insistently on the kitchen counter. Each unanswered call was like music to my ears. Madison Pierce Sterling wasn't just incompetent. She was dangerously arrogant. At 28, Madison had inherited the absolute conviction that her last name qualified her for any position. With a business degree from the most expensive private university in the state, she spoke modern corporate jargon fluently but didn't understand a single line of code. During her 3 months as my supervisor, Madison developed an annoying habit of interrupting my technical explanations with phrases like, "Let's simplify that," or "I need an executive summary." When I tried to explain why certain integrations needed time to be modified, she would sigh dramatically and say, "Aaron, in the real world, we don't have the luxury of perfectionism. We need agility." The real world. As if 6 years of building critical systems for a technology company were some kind of academic exercise. The last straw came 2 weeks ago during the monthly investor meeting. Madison presented my latest project, an optimization algorithm that had reduced our operating costs by $300,000 a year, as if it were her initiative. "Our team developed this innovative solution," she said, gesturing to the charts I had prepared. "It's the result of the new strategic approach I've implemented since taking over." Robert Sterling smiled proudly at his daughter, while I stood in the back of the room, invisible. When I confronted Madison after the meeting, her response was revealing. "Aaron, you need to understand that teamwork means sharing success. It can't always be about you. Always about me." As if asking for recognition for the work I actually did was some kind of professional narcissism. At that moment, I made a decision that would change everything. Over the next 2 weeks, I implemented subtle changes to my system. Not sabotage, I would never do anything to harm Sterling Tech's clients. But additional layers of security, more rigorous verification protocols, rotating passwords that needed to be updated manually. In essence, I made the system even more dependent on my presence. While Madison was preparing to fire me, and the signs were obvious to anyone who knew how to read them, I was preparing to demonstrate just how essential my work was. My phone rang for the 16th time. This time, it was Robert Sterling himself. "I'll get it," I announced to Jennifer, who looked at me curiously. "Aaron." Robert's voice was heavy with relief and desperation. "Thank God you got that. There's been a terrible mix-up. Madison acted without my approval. She had no authority to fire you." I kept my voice carefully neutral. "I see, Mr. Sterling." But her text was quite clear. "Ignore that message completely. I need you to come to the office immediately. We're experiencing some technical problems and—" "What kind of technical problems?" A revealing silence. "Well, the system is not responding as it should. The automatic reports weren't generated today. And none of us can access the backup data." I smiled at Jennifer, who was clearly trying to understand the conversation from my side. "Mr. Sterling, with all due respect, I no longer work for Sterling Tech. My position was eliminated, remember." "Aaron, please. We can work this out. Any misunderstanding that may have occurred with Madison." There was no misunderstanding. She was very clear about my situation. And frankly, after 3 months of being systematically devalued and having my work credited to others, maybe it's for the best. Robert's heavy breathing was audible through the phone. "How much do you want? Double your current salary? Triple?" Madison made a serious mistake, I recognize that. "It's not about the money, Mr. Sterling." "Then what is it?" I paused dramatically, savoring the moment. "It's about professional respect. Something your daughter clearly doesn't understand." I hung up the phone. Jennifer looked at me with a mixture of admiration and concern. "You just turned down an offer to triple your salary?" "I just turned down the opportunity to return to the same toxic environment that fired me on my birthday," I corrected her. "But don't worry. I have a feeling this won't be the last offer." As if summoned by my words, my phone rang again. This time, it was a number I didn't recognize. "Hello? Aaron? This is David from accounting. Man, what a mess we have here. No one can access the automated financial reports. Madison is in a complete panic." David was one of the few colleagues with whom I had a genuinely friendly relationship. He had always respected my work and never tried to take credit for my successes. "I'm sorry to hear that, David. But I don't work there anymore." I know. But look, between us, it's chaos here. Madison is yelling at everyone, demanding that someone fix the system. She has no idea how anything works. And Robert, locked in his office, making call after call. I hear customers are already complaining because the progress reports haven't arrived. Interesting. The reports were sent automatically every Monday at 8 a.m. They were essential for our customers to track the progress of their projects and approve payments. Without those reports, clients were in the dark. And clients in the dark didn't approve payments. David, I need to ask you something. Do you know if anyone else in the company has administrative access to my system? A bitter laugh. Aaron, you know I don't. Madison tried to log in using her old account about an hour ago. The system locked her out after 3 incorrect password attempts. Perfect. For 6 years, I had been meticulous about access permissions. Only I had full administrative credentials. Other employees had limited access for their specific roles, but no one could modify core settings or access sensitive data. It was a standard security measure, but now it was proving to be my best defense. Aaron, David's voice dropped, conspiratorial. Honestly? I don't think Madison had any idea what she was doing when she fired you. She probably thought any technician could fill your shoes. Now what? Now she's finding out that complex systems need people who understand them. After hanging up with David, I returned to the kitchen where Jennifer had prepared my favorite dish, lasagna with a special tomato sauce that took hours to make. "So," she asked, serving me a generous portion, "how are you feeling about all this?" I pondered the question as I savored the first bite. "You know, Jen, I spent 6 years of my life building something extraordinary. A system that not only worked, but revolutionized how that company operated. And for the last 3 months, watching Madison take credit for my work, exclude me from important decisions, and finally fire me as if I were expendable." I paused. It was humiliating, but it was also educational. Educational how? It taught me that some people only learn when they face the consequences of their actions. Madison always had a safety net. Family money, a secure position, a last name that opened doors. My phone vibrated with another missed call. But today she's learning a valuable lesson about the difference between having a title and having competence. Jennifer smiled, recognizing the determined tone in my voice. "And what's your next step?" I looked at my phone, which now showed 23 missed calls, and smiled. "My next step is to finish this amazing lasagna my wife made for my birthday. Then maybe I'll watch a movie. Or organize my home office." "Aren't you going to help them?" "Jen, for 3 months, Madison made it clear that my contribution was unnecessary. That anyone with basic knowledge could do my job. That I was just a replaceable cog in her new strategic vision." I raised my fork in a mock toast. Today she has the opportunity to prove she was right. My phone rang again. This time, it was a number that made me pause. Madison's personal cell phone. I answered with genuine curiosity. "Aaron." Her voice was different. Smaller. Without the usual arrogance. We need to talk." "About what?" "About how to resolve this situation with the system." "Madison, you were very clear this morning. My position has been eliminated. There is no situation to resolve." Look, maybe I was hasty. Hasty. As if firing someone via text on their birthday was a matter of poor timing. "Madison, you said you were giving me a gift. I hope you like the gift I gave you back." And I hung up. What Madison didn't understand, and was about to find out in the most painful way possible, was that firing the architect of a critical system with no transition period isn't just reckless. It's corporate suicide. By Tuesday morning, the chaos at Sterling Tech had multiplied exponentially. Jennifer brought me coffee while I read the news on my tablet, methodically ignoring the 47 missed calls that had accumulated overnight. "Honey," she said, pointing to my phone's flashing screen, "are you sure you shouldn't answer at least one of those calls?" I smiled, taking a sip of my perfectly brewed coffee. "Jen, For 6 years I've been the first one in and the last one out of that office. I've worked weekends, holidays, even our honeymoon. I answered urgent emails. My phone vibrated again. This time it was Tom Bradley, one of Sterling Tech's top clients. I answered curiously. Aaron. Thank God I got you. What the hell is going on with you guys? Our progress report didn't arrive yesterday, and when I called the office, no one could give me a coherent answer. Tom owned a chain of restaurants that had hired Sterling Tech to modernize his inventory systems. It was a $200,000 project that depended entirely on my custom algorithms. Tom, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I no longer work for Sterling Tech. Silence. What do you mean you no longer work there? You're the project. Without you, we have no way of tracking the progress of the implementations. I was fired yesterday. My position was eliminated. Eliminated? Aaron, you've performed miracles on our systems. Who was the genius who made that decision? Madison Sterling. A string of creative expletives followed on the other end of the line. Aaron, I need to be blunt with you. If you're no longer there, we can't continue the project. We don't trust anyone else to handle such critical systems. I paused for effect. Well, Tom, I'm considering starting an independent consulting firm. Perfect. When can you start? And honestly, what kind of idiot company fires the guy who does the real work? After hanging up with Tom, who had just become my first potential client, Jennifer looked at me with renewed admiration. How many clients do they have that specifically depend on your work? I reflected on the question. Directly? About 15 major accounts. Indirectly? Every customer who uses our automated systems. My phone rang again. Sarah Chun, Director of Technology at a logistics company. Aaron, I just spoke with Tom Bradley. He told me you were fired from Sterling Tech. Is that true? It's true, Sarah. Well, consider this an opportunity. We have a systems integration project that's been stalled for months because we couldn't find anyone with your expertise. Are you interested in freelancing? Within 2 hours, I received 7 similar calls. Clients of Sterling Tech who, upon learning of my dismissal, immediately offered me direct contracts. The combined value of the proposed projects exceeded my annual salary at the company. But it was the midday call that really changed everything. Aaron Mitchell. The voice was formal, unfamiliar. Yes. This is Jonathan Walsh, CEO of TechFlow Solutions. We heard about your recent transition from Sterling Tech. TechFlow was Sterling Tech's main competitor. Larger, more established, with significantly superior resources. We'd like to set up a meeting. We have a proposal that might interest you. Interesting. What kind of proposal? We'd prefer to discuss it in person. But I can tell you that it involves leading our new integrated systems division. With a $2 million budget to build your own team. $2 million. To lead exactly the kind of project Madison had prevented me from expanding at Sterling Tech. When can we meet? How about today at 5? At the Marriott Downtown, Conference Room 12. After hanging up, I found Jennifer watching me with an expression that mixed pride and concern. Are you okay? All this sudden interest. Jen, Madison didn't just make a mistake. She inadvertently gave me the freedom to do exactly what I've always wanted to do. Work without the bureaucratic constraints of a dysfunctional family business. My phone vibrated with a message from David in accounting. Aaron, the situation here is untenable. Madison is blaming everyone for system failure. Robert is locked in his office yelling on the phone. 3 clients have canceled contracts today. IT tried to access his backups, but everything is encrypted. Do you have the codes? I replied simply, I don't work there anymore. But then a second message arrived, this one from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Mitchell, I am an attorney representing Sterling Tech Solutions. Please contact me immediately to discuss urgent contractual issues related to intellectual property. Jennifer read the message over my shoulder. Can they do that? Force you to hand over the codes. I smiled, remembering a crucial detail from my original contract. Jen, when I started at Sterling Tech, Robert was so impressed with my work that he offered me a special deal. Any system I developed using my own time and resources, Weekends, evenings, my personal equipment would remain my intellectual property. And you developed the system on your own time? 60% of it was created in my home office over the last 2 years. Technically, they're using my property without a license. The phone rang again. Robert Sterling, for the 4th time that day. This time, I answered. Aaron, for God's sake, we need to resolve this. The lawyers are saying we can take legal action, but honestly, I need my systems up and running before I lose all my clients. Robert, I already offered my help. You refused when you fired me. Madison acted without my approval. She's young, inexperienced. Robert, Madison is a 28-year-old adult in an executive position. Her decisions have consequences. How much do you want? Be reasonable. For the first time, I felt a twinge of something that wasn't satisfaction at revenge, but genuine pity for Robert. He had built that company over 20 years, and he was watching it crumble because of his daughter's arrogance. Robert, this isn't about money. It's about professional respect. Then what do you want? I paused, glancing at Jennifer, who nodded encouragingly. I want Madison to publicly acknowledge that she made a mistake. I want a formal retraction of the firing decision. And I want complete authority over all technical aspects, with no interference. Silence. Aaron, Madison will never agree to that. Then she can learn to operate computer systems manually, with pen and paper. I hung up. Jennifer approached, placing her hand on my shoulder. You're enjoying this, aren't you? I reflected on the question honestly. I don't like seeing Robert suffer. He's always been fair to me. But Madison? Madison is learning a valuable lesson about the consequences of treating competent people as expendable. At 4 p.m, I received an unexpected call. Aaron? This is Madison. Her voice was completely different. No arrogance, no condescension. Just exhaustion and something that sounded dangerously close to desperation. Madison. Can we talk? About what? About how to fix this mess that happened. Interesting. For the first time in 3 months, Madison was talking to me as an equal, not as a problematic subordinate. Madison, you were very clear yesterday. My position has been eliminated. There's nothing to fix. Aaron, please. I made a mistake. A mistake. As if firing someone via text on their birthday was a matter of poor judgment, not calculated cruelty. Madison, you didn't make a mistake. You made an executive decision based on your assessment of my contributions to the company. I was wrong. About what, specifically? A long pause. About everything. About your importance to the company. About my ability to manage technical systems. About. Her voice failed. Madison, I appreciate your honesty. But some decisions can't be undone. What does that mean? I looked at Jennifer, who was laying out my clothes for the meeting with TechFlow. It means that at 5 o'clock today, I have a meeting that could define the next chapter of my career. A chapter that doesn't include Sterling Tech. Aaron, don't do this. Please. The desperation in her voice was genuine. Madison, for 3 months you made it clear that I was unnecessary to your vision for the company. Today you found out if you were right. And I hung up. As I got ready to leave, Jennifer hugged me. Are you sure about this meeting? It sounds like they're willing to negotiate. Jen, 24 hours ago, Madison fired me to teach me a lesson in humility. Today she found out who really needed to learn something. But as I drove to the hotel, part of me wondered if revenge was really as simple as accepting an offer from the competition. Or if I was about to discover that some victories cost more than we expect to pay. The meeting at TechFlow exceeded my wildest expectations. Jonathan Walsh not only offered me the position of Director of Integrated Systems, he gave me complete authority to hire my own team and establish protocols without executive interference. Aaron, let's be blunt, he said, sliding a contract across the mahogany desk. We know what happened at Sterling Tech. Madison Sterling made the most expensive mistake of her career when she fired you. The salary offered was 4 times my old job. We need someone with your expertise to lead our expansion into the enterprise automation sector. $2 million in initial budget, a team of 15 developers, and complete autonomy. As I reviewed the contract, my phone vibrated with the 50th missed call of the day. Can I have 48 hours to consider? Sure. But Aaron, Jonathan leaned forward, between you and me, half of Sterling Tech's clients have already contacted us today. They're looking for alternatives. Interesting. On my way home, my phone rang. It was David from accounting. Aaron, man, it's the apocalypse here. Madison is literally screaming in her father's office. We can hear her through the door. What's going on? 6 clients have canceled contracts today. 6. And more are calling every hour. The IT guys tried to reset the system 3 times, but all they did was lock up more modules. I smiled. My security protocols were working exactly as planned. David, can you do me a favor? Write down how many customers cancel tomorrow, too. Why? Professional curiosity. On Wednesday morning, as I was calmly drinking my coffee at home, I received an unexpected call. Aaron, this is Robert Sterling. We need to meet. In person. Her voice sounded different. Gone was the confident, fatherly tone I knew. There was genuine desperation there. Where? Wherever you want. Anywhere you prefer. Interesting. Robert Sterling, who for 20 years had conducted meetings in his intimidating office, was now willing to meet wherever I chose. Café Luna, noon. I'll be there. I arrived 10 minutes late on purpose. Robert was already at a corner table, visibly nervous, fiddling with his napkin. When he saw me, his face lit up with relief. Aaron, thank you for coming. I sat down without greeting him. Robert, you have 5 minutes. I'm considering other opportunities. 8 clients have canceled. 8. In 2 days. I ordered coffee from the waiter before responding. I'm sorry to hear that. Aaron, please. Madison made a terrible mistake. She's young, impulsive. Robert, Madison is an executive making executive decisions. She acts like one, she takes the consequences like one. What do you want? Fire Madison? Make her apologize publicly. I considered the offer. Seeing Madison humiliated publicly would be satisfying, but not strategic. Robert, I don't want Madison fired. I don't want a public apology. Confusion crossed his face. Then what? I want her to learn. Really learn what it means to run a technology company. How? I smiled for the first time in the conversation. Madison is going to personally call every customer who canceled, explain that I fired her because of her incompetence, and ask them to reconsider. Robert choked on his coffee. Aaron, that's taking responsibility for her decisions. And then she'll complete an intensive technical training program. 6 months learning basic programming, systems management, and security protocols. And you'll come back? I paused dramatically. Maybe. As an independent consultant. On my own terms and at my own rates. Robert nodded desperately. Anything. Any price. $300 an hour. 40 hours a week, minimum. His eyes widened. It was more than my previous annual salary. And one final condition, I added. Madison works directly with me. As a trainee. Until I feel she understands the basics of technology. If you're following this transformation from a humiliating firing to a golden opportunity, be sure to subscribe to the channel to see how this negotiation ends. Robert held out his hand. We have a deal. I shook his hand, but I didn't smile. Robert, I'm going to need everything in writing. And Madison needs to agree to every condition in person. She'll agree. Are you sure? Because tomorrow at 9 a.m., TechFlow is expecting my response to a very generous offer. Panic returned to Robert's eyes. How much time do we have? I consulted my watch. Madison has until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning to call and formally accept all the terms. And if she doesn't call? I stood up, leaving the money on the table. Then at 9 I'll sign with TechFlow, and you can learn how to operate computer systems with pen and paper. I left the cafe knowing that Madison Sterling was about to face the most difficult choice of her privileged life. Swallow her pride and accept to be a trainee for the man she fired, or watch the family business completely collapse. At 7:58 the next morning, my phone rang. Aaron. Madison's voice was unrecognizable. 3 days of total crisis had destroyed her usual arrogance. Madison. I accept all your terms. I smiled, watching Jennifer prepare morning coffee. All your terms. $300 an hour. 40 hours a week. I'll work as your trainee. And I'll personally call every client. And silence. Then a shaky breath. And I'll apologize for firing you because of my incompetence. Perfect. We'll start Monday at 8 in the morning. Aaron, thank you. Madison, one thing. You will learn every technical aspect of this company. Programming, systems, protocols. No exceptions. Yes. Anything. I hung up at exactly 8 o'clock. At 9, I called Jonathan Walsh at TechFlow. Jonathan? Aaron Mitchell. Thank you for the generous offer, but I've decided to remain independent. I understand. But Aaron, if you change your mind. Actually, I have a counterproposal. How about subcontracting my services? I can develop customized systems without any conflict of exclusivity. An interested pause. Go on. $300 an hour. Specific projects. You get expertise without a long-term commitment. When can you start? Next Thursday. In one phone call, I turned Sterling Tech into a client and TechFlow into a second source of income. Monday came quickly. At 7:50, I was in the Sterling Tech parking lot, watching Madison arrive. She looked like she had aged 5 years in a week. I entered the building for the first time since my dismissal. The receptionists greeted me with renewed respect. Word of my return as a premium consultant had spread. Madison was waiting for me in the conference room with a stack of papers in front of her. Client list to call? She nodded silently. Madison, before we start, I need you to understand something. You didn't fire me because of my incompetence. You fired me because of your insecurity. Her eyes filled with tears. I know. For 3 months, you tried to diminish me because you couldn't accept that someone without an MBA or an impressive last name could be more valuable to this company. Aaron, please. Now you're going to call Tom Bradley and explain exactly that to him. I placed the phone on the desk. Dial. Madison dialed with trembling hands. Tom? This is Madison Sterling. Yes, from Sterling Tech. I need to apologize for a terrible decision I made. I heard Tom explode on the other end of the line. Madison cringed in her chair. I fired Aaron because of my professional jealousy and incompetence. Yes, that's exactly what it was. The call lasted 15 minutes. Madison emerged visibly shaken. Next client. Aaron, can I take a break? Madison, you did this to me on my birthday. No warning, no consideration. Keep dialing. 3 hours later, Madison had called 8 clients. Each conversation was a greater public humiliation than the last. But it worked. 6 of the 8 clients agreed to reconsider their cancellation decisions. Now, I announced, let's get to the technical part. You're going to learn basic programming. Today. I spent the next 4 hours teaching Madison basic coding concepts. She struggled with every command, every function. I don't understand why it's so complicated, she muttered in frustration. Madison, you think this is complicated? This is the most basic level. The system you thought any techie could replace has 300,000 lines of custom code. The realization hit her like a slap in the face. Oh my God. Exactly. You fired someone whose job was so specialized that rebuilding it from scratch would take years. By the end of the day, Madison was mentally and emotionally exhausted. Aaron, she said as I gathered my materials, I really didn't know. Madison, that's the difference between us. You make decisions based on ego. I make decisions based on knowledge. On Wednesday, I got a call from Jonathan Walsh. Aaron, I hear you're back at Sterling Tech. As an independent consultant, yes. And Madison Sterling is working as your intern? Correct. An amused laugh. Aaron, you've turned a humiliating firing into the most elegant turnaround I've ever seen. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about rebuilding a company where competence mattered more than last names. Where decisions were based on merit, not family politics. On Friday, Madison completed her first week as my intern. How did I do? She asked nervously. You've learned more about this company in 5 days than you did in the last 3 months. A small, genuine smile appeared on her face. Aaron, can I ask you something? Sure. When did you know you were going to fire me? I smiled. Madison, I designed security systems that track every login, every access attempt, every modification. 2 weeks before I was fired, you tried to access my management files 17 times. Her eyes widened. You knew. I prepared myself. The difference is that you saw my dismissal as a victory. I saw it as an opportunity. Madison nodded slowly. So all of this was planned? Madison, you gave me the perfect birthday present. Freedom to rewrite the rules of the game. As she processed this revelation, my phone rang. It was David from accounting. Aaron, man, this week's results were incredible. 3 new contracts signed, 6 old clients came back, and Madison, well, she's really learning. And Robert. Happier than I've seen him in months. He said it was the best decision he ever made. I hung up and looked at Madison. Ready to learn about database integrations? She took a deep breath. Ready. And as we began the next lesson, I realized I had achieved something better than simple revenge. I had turned an enemy into an ally, a dysfunctional company into a model of meritocracy, and a personal humiliation into the catalyst for systemic change. Madison Sterling had given me the perfect birthday present, and I had paid her back with interest. 6 months later, Sterling Tech Solutions was a completely different company. Madison had become the most dedicated employee the company had ever had. She arrived at 7 in the morning, studied programming late into the night, and treated every project as if her career depended on it, because it did. Aaron, she said one Thursday as we reviewed code, can I ask you a personal question? Sure. Did you hate me when you fired me? I reflected on the question honestly. Madison, I never hated you. I was disappointed. Frustrated. But hate? No. Then why did you do it? I stopped typing and turned to her. Because you had potential wasted by privilege. And because a technology company can't be run by nepotism. In her 6 months as my intern, Madison had learned more about technology than in all her previous education. More importantly, she had learned about humility, merit, and consequences. Aaron, Robert appeared at the office door. Got a minute? We headed to his office, where he carefully closed the door. The semester results are in. Record profits. Customer satisfaction at 97%. 0 employee turnover. He slid a folder across the desk. I want to offer you a partnership. 20% of the company. I opened the folder. The numbers were impressive. Robert, I appreciate the offer, but I'd rather keep my independence. Why? Because as an independent consultant, I can help multiple companies avoid the mistakes Madison made. I can create meritocracy systems throughout the industry. Robert smiled understandingly. And Madison? How do you assess her progress? Madison is ready to take on real responsibilities, but under continued supervision. Her real responsibilities. Junior Project Coordinator. With a salary based on performance, not her last name. Robert held out his hand. We have a deal. That afternoon, I got a call from Tom Bradley. Aaron, man, I need to tell you something. My daughter is graduating with a degree in computer science next year. She wants to work in technology. Excellent. What's the question? Would you take her on as an intern? To learn the ropes from the bottom up. I smiled. Tom, it would be my pleasure. Send me her resume. The difference was striking. Tom wanted his daughter to learn competence before inheriting responsibility. The exact opposite of Robert's approach with Madison. On Friday, Madison came to see me at the end of the day. "Aaron, I know I'll never be able to undo what I did on your birthday." Madison. "No, let me finish. You gave me something my father never could, genuine respect based on competence." She took a deep breath. For 28 years, I had everything handed to me on a silver platter. I never had to prove myself. And when I was finally tested, I failed spectacularly. And now I know the difference between deserving a position and simply occupying it. Madison held out a small gift box. "Happy belated birthday." Inside was an elegant watch with an engraving, "To Aaron, who taught me that time is the most valuable gift we can give someone." Madison, you didn't have to. I did. You spent 6 months of your time teaching me. Time you could have used to expand your consulting business or close new deals. It was true. My list of potential clients had grown exponentially. "Madison, can I teach you one last lesson?" She nodded. "Leadership isn't about power over people. It's about empowering people." "What do you mean?" "For 3 months, you used your position to diminish me, to take credit for my work. That's power over." I paused. "Over the past 6 months, I've taught you skills you'll use for the rest of your career. That's empowerment." Madison smiled genuinely for the first time in months. "So my next question is, how can I empower my team when I take over as coordinator?" "That," I replied, "is the right question." On my next birthday, exactly 1 year after receiving that resignation message, I organized a small celebration at the office. Jennifer had baked the same chocolate cake. The Sterling Tech employees, including Madison, were there. David from accounting gave a toast. "Here's to Aaron, who taught us that sometimes the best revenge is helping people become better versions of themselves." Madison approached with tears in her eyes. "Aaron, can I say something?" "Of course." "A year ago, I fired you thinking I was getting rid of a problem. In fact, I was creating an opportunity for you to teach me the most important lesson of my life." She took a deep breath. "That competence cannot be inherited, only earned." In that moment, I realized I had achieved something rare, revenge that results in growth, not destruction. My consulting firm now served 15 companies. We implemented meritocracy systems, constructive feedback protocols, and structures that rewarded competence over connections. Tom Bradley hired me to redesign the entire promotion structure at his companies. Sarah Chun called me to create a results-based mentoring program. More importantly, 3 other companies sought me out specifically because they heard how I turned things around at Sterling Tech. "Aaron," Jennifer said as we drove home, "are you happy with how everything turned out?" I reflected on the question. "Jen, a year ago, Madison fired me in an attempt to humiliate me. Today she's a competent professional who leads teams based on merit." I paused. "Robert almost lost the company he built over 20 years. Today it's more profitable and ethical than ever." "And you?" I discovered my true purpose. It's not just to create computer systems. It's creating systems of justice and meritocracy. As we drove, my phone rang. It was Jonathan Walsh from TechFlow. "Aaron, remember our conversation about outsourcing? We have an interesting project. A family-owned company with nepotism issues." I smiled at Jennifer. "Jonathan, can I call you back? I'm celebrating my birthday." "Sure. And Aaron? Congratulations. I hear it's been a transformative year for you." "It has been, Jonathan. It has." When I hung up, Jennifer looked at me curiously. "Another company with privilege versus competence issues?" "It looks like it." "And you're going to help?" I thought of Madison a year ago, arrogant, insecure, wasting her potential. And Madison today, humble, competent, empowering others. "Jen, some people only learn when they face real consequences. My job is to create those consequences in a constructive way." "So your revenge never really ended?" I smiled. "My revenge turned into a mission. Now, every time I help someone privileged discover their true value through competence, I'm honoring that text message." Jennifer laughed. "Consider this my gift to you, really was the best gift you ever received." It was. Madison gave me the freedom to do what I was born to do, teach that respect cannot be inherited, only earned. If this story of transformation touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Share in the comments if you've ever faced nepotism at work and how you dealt with the situation. We have other inspiring stories about people who turned humiliation into empowerment, and you won't want to miss them. Because in the end, Madison Sterling was right about one thing: that text message really was a gift. The gift that turned a competent employee into an independent consultant, a dysfunctional company into a benchmark for meritocracy, and a privileged young woman into a respected professional. Sometimes the greatest victories don't come from destroying our enemies, but from helping them become better people. And last time I checked, Madison Sterling was promoting employees based solely on performance. Me? Well, I was expanding to my 15th client company, teaching the next generation that competence always beats privilege. Always.